Girl really threw me off my game with her random quote. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Sam. If you are a returning viewer, welcome back. I am happy to have you here again this week. Nice to see you. If you are new here and this is the first time you are seeing my face, welcome. I make weekly videos dissecting internet nonsense, so if you're into that type of thing or you like today's video, I hope that you'll consider liking and subscribing. It really helps out the channel and it makes sure that you never miss another upload from me. So we all know at this point that fat acceptance on TikTok has some weird takes on science, right? Like, that's not surprising to anyone. I feel like we just talked about it a little bit last week when we were talking about the BMI, or even a few weeks ago when we were talking about the obesity paradox. They don't understand science. And this started for me when I talked about that interview that Virgie Tovar did, right? Where she was sitting down with the host of Ulta and their podcast. Here's what she has to say about science.
To me, and she was like, if science isn't serving humanitarian ends, then what is the point that we're doing? Like, what's the point of it? You know? And it's like, right, because are we making science for aliens? For like what are we, you know what I'm saying? It's like, so if by our scientific notion of whatever health is right now, if that's excluding 68% of the population, which is like the plus size population, if that's excluding 70-ish% of the US population, then it's not working.
This video blew my mind. Continues to blow my mind, which is why I continue to use it, right? I can't fully wrap my brain around what the heck Virgie is talking about in this clip. Because she's literally telling us that she thinks that science is doing a disservice to 68% of the population, right? And so if science is excluding fat people who make up a majority, by the way, 68% of the population, then who are we making science for? Aliens? And a lot of science, a lot of time and energy, a lot of research has gone into fat and how fat affects the human body and human health, right? I mean, God, even how fat affects pets is well known, and that's a topic for another day. But just because fat activists, like Virgie, don't understand or don't like the results of science, doesn't mean that science isn't serving humanitarian ends. So, as I mentioned, this clip has been sitting with me for a nice long while, like since I first watched it, and it's been festering. I did that thing I always talk about where it's been sitting in my notebook and I've been scribbling little notes to myself trying to figure out where the heck is the dissonance between science and I don't understand how someone could misunderstand science so badly. It is mind-boggling. Then last week, while I was sitting down to watch YouTube, I saw this clip.
Obesity isn't real. It's a made-up thing. It is truly a made-up thing because really behind the word obesity is basically just a scientific way to dehumanize fat people and make the world, well really Western society, believe that fat people are a problem or a disease. Fatness is not a disease. Okay? So before you come spewing things, make sure you fact check yourself. Make sure you look into what you're saying. I just want you to know that obesity is not real. And if you come from me being like, everything science says is 100% fact driven and truthful, I will debunk your ass quick. Because while I believe in science, I'm not an anti-vaxxer or any of the things that make people who are like, science isn't real. I'm not one of those. But what I am is a person who says science is a human-based experiment, basically, right? Scientists are humans, and all humans are flawed, and all humans have biases. So, if we've looked over the history of science, there have been many times where science has been wrong. Like when science was super racist and said that white people had bigger brains than people of color, okay? Or like when science said that homosexuality was a disease and a mental illness. Okay. So when science can get multiple things in history wrong and then come back and be like, oops, my bad, science can also dehumanize an entire group of people to make others believe that they are a problem. And then later down the line, they rewrite what they're saying. Just like right now, when science is actually talking about how diets and yo-yo dieting is one of the leading causes of heart disease and heart attacks. Even though for years, people have been like, you know what? Fat people are the reason why we are the leading cause of heart disease. It's like, ever heard of stress? Ever heard of the stress that it puts onto you when you're shamed constantly or not treated like a human being? Okay, so anyways, obesity isn't real. It's a very easy way to debunk this.
We all just lost brain cells together there. Sorry about that. But this clip sparked something for me. Today, I want to focus on Fierce Fat Femme and what she just said about science because I finally understand what they don't get about science. Let's talk about it. So, in that clip, we saw her say that scientists often get it wrong, and then they just come back and say, oops, we did it wrong. Let's just sweep that under the rug because this new science exists. And while she's not all wrong, because that is how science works, right? It's always meant to be challenged, it's ever evolving. The examples that she used are the things that got me, because she used an example like phrenology. And this got my little history nerd brain pumping. Again, it's been happening a lot lately, can you tell? And I am absolutely in love. And I know, she didn't outright say the word phrenology, but just stick with me. I swear it will all come together. So let me explain. In her video, we hear her say that at one point in time, scientists believed that white people had bigger brains than black people. She didn't explicitly say phrenology, but phrenology is the race science she refers to when she says this. Phrenology was the belief that measurements of bumps in the skull could predict mental traits and abilities. And as this transferred to the Americas in the 1830s and 1840s, American race scientists attempted to use this theory to justify maintaining their system of chattel slavery and to displace Native American people from their land. While it is true that phrenology existed as a way for people to try to maintain slavery in the American South, she's presenting it as a scientific theory, right? That she literally says it was science that was put in place to maintain this system. And then scientists, according to her, just changed their mind and were like, oopsie poopsie, we made a mistake. We shouldn't actually keep people enslaved. And not only is that statement extremely oversimplified, which is problematic in its own right, the main problem for me is that phrenology is not a scientific theory. It's pseudoscience. When she made that comparison, my brain lit up like a light bright. Because it was in that moment that I realized that fat activists don't understand the difference between science and pseudoscience. And that is what allows fat activists, fat TikTokers, like Fierce Fat Femme, to say that they believe in science while actively debunking actual science. And you know, we all know at one point in time that people thought it would be really great for us to always have access to the internet, right? Like, we're going to have the World Wide Web in our pocket, and it's going to make us better and smarter and all of those things, the most intelligent, big-brained humans on the planet, right? Like, we're going to be so intelligent because we have all of this access to information. And, well, I think we're all questioning that now. I could be wrong, but I definitely am questioning that. Because takes like fierce fat femmes are happening more and more frequently. And even though we have all the access to the information, what's becoming clear to me is that we haven't necessarily developed the skills that are required to be able to think critically about topics like this. And for me, that's a big deal. So let's apply some critical thinking. Let's take a deep dive. Let's look at the difference between science and pseudoscience. Pseudoscience was first defined by philosopher Karl Popper. Throughout his life and career, he observed scientists and psychologists such as Einstein and Sigmund Freud, and the way they conducted their research and/or sought to prove their theories. He concluded that scientific methods used to confirm one's beliefs were pseudoscience, and that pseudoscience could be used to prove anything wrong. This is a topic that can get confusing fast, but basically, pseudoscience is often created and shared in such a way that it is unopen to testing and unopen to change. Fierce Fat Femme wasn't wrong when she said that scientific theories change. The key difference, again, as described by Popper, is that scientists, true scientists, accept new evidence and then let go of their beliefs if they are proven wrong. Pseudoscientists do not. And this is something that we are seeing more and more of as time goes on. And especially as the fake news era continues to grow, right? But what's interesting, at least for me, is seeing this thing happen on both sides of the aisle, for lack of better phrasing. Especially the American aisle, for those of you who are not Americans watching this. But it's been surreal for me to watch fat activists, people who typically believe in science, would promote themselves as very liberal, right? These sorts of people downgrading science after spending the last 3-4 years now yelling at everyone else to believe in science. There's a great creator on this platform, much larger than myself, that I enjoy watching, and her name is Swoop, and she covers mind-bending stories, often related to true crime. But something she does is she always takes time to help her viewers better identify things that could be going on in the real world so that they can be better informed. So today I am going to take a page out of her book to help us be able to actively identify pseudoscience when it pops up in our lives. Here are the markers of pseudoscience. It is unfalsifiable or cannot be proven wrong. They often make vague or unobservable claims. It relies heavily on anecdotes, personal experience, or testimonials. It cherry picks confirming evidence while ignoring or minimizing disconfirming evidence. It uses technobabble or words that sound scientific but don't make sense. It makes extraordinary or exaggerated claims with insufficient evidence. Let me give you a local example of pseudoscience that I came across offline a few years ago. Where I'm from in the Midwest, it is not unusual to see gigantic white wind turbines spinning in the prairie. You can see them for miles and miles, right? And nearly 5 years ago, we were living in a particularly rural area in Illinois, and some wind farm companies were looking to establish themselves in our area. Well, we got a mailing that told us about how wind turbines were bad for health. And this is what it stated. We took a family of 8 and had them stand and look up at the wind turbine for approximately 4 to 5 hours. After this experiment, 7 out of 8 reported experiencing neck pain, headaches, and other body aches. it included additional language after this that also did not make any logical sense, but this was the one that really stuck with me. So let's talk about the reason this is pseudoscience. First, it's anecdotal in nature, but second, I just want to talk about the logistics of this science experiment, right? If you've never stood in a cornfield in the Midwest, we have really black dirt. It's very thick, like it's a really thick layer. And if you step into a cornfield, you're stepping up into it, usually after they've tilled it. Then once you step in, you kind of sink down into it. It's very uneven and difficult to traverse just because of the nature of the way that they aerate the soil. So essentially, they told us that they took a family of 8 people to go stand in a cornfield, right, on this uneven surface. And then they spent 4 to 5 hours looking up at a windmill that is approximately 280 feet tall. And just to give you a weird equivalent, because this is what Americans like to do, right? Anything except use the metric system. That's equivalent to 8 full-size school buses standing vertically on top of each other. It's very tall. So, of course, your neck is going to hurt. You could potentially have a headache if you stared into the sun all day, because you're standing on an uneven surface looking up. Of course it's painful. Like, what? So we knew immediately, obviously, that this was pseudoscience, but what ended up happening is there were a lot of people who were taking that information because they got it in a scientific pamphlet in their mailboxes, and they were using it to vote yes or no on whether these wind farms should be able to move into the county. And as silly as the story is, it shows that pseudoscience is everywhere. Whether it's in the mailbox or whether it's being shouted at you through TikTok on your phone, it's literally all around you. So I guess I hope we can all just be better at capturing it, and maybe having a good chuckle. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I chuckled as I was reading through that wind turbine pamphlet because it was just so outrageously ridiculous. Kind of the same way I chuckle when I watch fat activists spew nonsense. It's just a thing that I like to do. Fierce Fat Femme's example of pseudoscience to explain how science changes over time, and Virgie Tovar's weird take that scientists are conspiring to exclude fat people are just the tip of this iceberg. And I don't know about all of you, but honestly, I'm scared to deep dive any further in than we have already gone today. I feel like I'd rather just dig in my heels and stay here, at least for now. Also, I want to just take a brief moment to reflect on this moment in that original TikTok.
So before you come spewing things, make sure you fact check yourself. Make sure you look into what you're saying. I just want you to know that obesity is not real. And if you come from me being like, everything science says is 100% fact driven and truthful, I will debunk your ass quick.
Because I would love if Fierce Fat Femme would debunk me with actual cited sources. I'll be waiting. Because it tends to be a lot of fallacies and appeals to credentials with the fat activists lately. So I'll wait excitedly on bated breath for the debunking, because she seems real fiery about it. So I guess I will leave you with this Karl Popper quote that I found, because I feel like it accurately applies and kind of sums up where I'm at as we're finishing this video. True ignorance is not the absence of knowledge, but rather the refusal to acquire it. What did you guys think about Fierce Fat Femme talking about science changing? What do you think about Virgie Tovar? I would still love to know, because I'm struggling. Girl really threw me off my game with her random quote. Have you seen other fat activists using pseudoscience to bolster their arguments? You'll have to let me know in the comment section below. I'll be there reading them this morning, as always. Thank you all so much for being here with me again this week. I will see you in the next one. Bye!